Dadi Pudumjee, and I would like to welcome everyone to my live session today on Coconut Theatre presenting Chai-Wai and Rangmanch. I would like to thank everybody backstage here on Coconut Theatre for organizing. Can you see that? Well, today most of us are speaking through this and you can't hear anything, and especially me with one ear only functioning. And so let me remove this from my hair and I think we will be better to speak. This is a puppet, a likeness which was made by an Indonesian wayang-golek puppeteer some years ago. The journey that Coconut Theatre wants me to talk about is my work, my life, and it's a bit presumptuous or a bit self-effacing right now to do so in this period of COVID, but as he said, maybe people are interested, I don't know. Where does it all start? It starts in my hometown, Pune, which was originally Pune, today Pune, and it starts through school, through college, things like that, and especially the community I come from. The community I come from is this, long nose, and especially you guys in Bombay would know better, in Gujarat would know better, that's the Parsi Zoroastrian community. When I came to Delhi in 1980, very few people knew that, very few, let me tell you, and they would all think, where are you from? Punjab, from Kashmir, and it carried on trying to tell them who and what. But this community is enterprising, is eccentric, as most of us think we are crazy, and humorous as well. They cannot do without humor, cannot do without food and drink and plenty, and then share and philanthropy. This is one of the bases of this community, and I don't know if some of it has filtered down through to me, through my parents or through my relatives and cousins. Why do they ask me, did I take up this profession, puppetry? I come from a family of paper makers, and the ancestors was one of the first people who set up a paper mill in Mundwa more than 100 years ago, and then it carries on. Through school and college, Pune Bishop School and Wadia College, puppetry was just a hobby during school days, 7, 8 years old, and it carried on as that. Through school it was encouraged. There was something called scratch concerts, and we used to put up every 2 months something with puppets, but mostly string puppets. And I remember getting a gift of Pelham puppets. These were all British company which made toy string puppets, and that's where it started. Bookshop, famous bookshop in Pune called Manny's, no more, and it used to have a section, and they had sometimes puppet books, and so it was more a hobby. It carried on like this through school, through college, fundraising events, and eventually it comes to when you're finishing school and there's a scare. Oh my God, stop this, that, studies, exams, as you all know as parents, that would happen. And so it was put a bit on the back foot, and other relatives who were encouraging or friends were asked to keep away and not to encourage puppet playing. Once finishing school, then what? Puppetry was not a profession, and a respectable sort of profession, because I was keen on art, and painting and drawing was art, and that also what was called commercial art at JJ College of Art in Mumbai. But as after applying to the JJ, and their results would come out much later, there was this gap and scare, and so one went into college and did my BA, political science, economics, history. I don't remember any of that, Wadia College, and a bit of visits to the paper mill, that's it. But something changed drastically, and that was in 1971. There was an architect, famous architect from Pune, Soli Motiwala. He came back and he said, you know, there is a very famous, a new design school in Ahmedabad, which you all know as NID, or the National Institute of Design. Very few knew about it. And in 71, it was maybe the second year of undergraduates. Now it has a postgraduate course. And so through common friends, Homi, Nelly, Sitna, rung up, this, that and the other, and I landed up at NID. This totally changed my outlook to life and to what I do today. NID is special, and the foundation course is what follows me right through my life, even today. Ahmedabad, NID, as you know, people, Sarabais, and with NID, evenings were spent at Darpana Academy of Performing Arts, which had a puppet section run by Mayor Contractor, the late Mayor Contractor. And so design, puppetry, and for the first time being away from home, and what one got in those years in Ahmedabad were very special. I think it's special for anybody who goes to that institute or any other institute. When you leave your house and you go and stay in another place, it changes your whole worldview. Design, more than design, I think art was encouraged at home. Concerts, music, theatre, movies, films. I don't think there's much time for it today, but most parents, I mean, it's mostly studies and you have to get through, and I suppose maybe that's right. But this is what changes your outlook to life. I'm not talking of only my profession as a puppeteer or theatre. It totally changes how you see the world. You empathize maybe, especially in this point of time where we are sitting today. NID, Darpana, one thing led to another. There were performances. NID encouraged creativity, thinking, explaining what you've done, and it carried on. And in those days it was called graphic design. Today they're saying visual communication, and then I had to specialize in film. And I must mention here all the people that have have changed or have made this happen. The staff, the teachers at NID. You come suddenly from a school background straight into NID at that point of time. I came through college, but I mean many of the names I have forgotten, but I'm sure Vikas Satulekar, SM Shah, Varya, Mahendra Patel, Kumar Vyas, Helena Perintupa, Dashrath Patel, Jayanti Nayak, and then you had film appreciation, Satish Bahadur, Ratan Parimu from Baroda. All this came as a shock, as something that you get every day, morning to evening, and this is what creates your future, I think. This has helped create my future, definitely. NID carried on, and we were towards the somewhere, I think it was there was no video at that point of time. There were no computers at that point of time. Just this morning we were talking of a person who used to help us with typesetting, who passed away, and we were saying that, you know, how we went through all that. Is that section still there? I'm not sure it is, but still. What was special there was doing things with your hands. Even though some of the things I used to call Spanish Inquisitions, cutting, sewing, this, that and the other, but much later you realize that what you did with your pencil, with your brush, which you carried on trying to perfect, was what made you today. I'm thankful for that. Somewhere down the line, it was 1975, there was this satellite TV experiment site in Ahmedabad, and the Space Application Center, which is in Ahmedabad, was the Earth Station. And they were going to make programs, educational programs. TV was still not common, and this was for interior areas, for community viewing. And the Insight program, Nadia at Beach, they wanted to do a serial with puppets. And I was in Pune, I remember, in June, and they sent a letter, would you like to set up this section? Of course, yes. But then you're in your last year in NID, and parents say, well, puppetry, how can you do all this happen? And I remember Vikas telling me that, okay, we'll give you leave of absence for 1 year, and then take it from there, finish your subjects, and then come back. I said, what happens if I don't come back? He said, that's your call. And at home they said a little bit, when they heard this, that okay, you jump into water and swim, then don't blame us. Jumped into water, and one thing led to another. ISRO was the first professional work that I did with puppetry, It was a one-year thing, a studio where we ran every week a serial, Ho Bhai and Ha Bhai, with famous actors, Kailash Pandya, Pransuk Nayak, and the two main characters, a Mukhi, live actor, and the protagonist or the proletariat was the donkey, Ho Bhai. And we had to make new puppets very quick, very fast for each week. And V.K. Raina, he was our director, and we had a whole team. Puppetry works, or theatre works as a team. Even though you direct, even though you design, but eventually it is what the group or the team creates, and then it's set. This serial had something like 31 episodes, I can't remember, and it became one of the most popular programs at that point of time. And it spoke about incidents or situations 45 kilometers from Ahmedabad, and we had to find a story from anywhere in the world, dramatize it, and these two characters would meet each week, and they would discuss and they would bring the story to present time. The man, Mukhi, wants to change, he can't because of society, and the donkey says he can, and he speaks about these incidents, and the story unfolds, and then they argue and they leave. Today, there is not much of a sense of humor. I mean, you can touch on a sensitive issue, which is religion, whether it's this or that, and people get all upset. It's a sad thing, but at that point of time, it was possible to do this very easily. And what was interesting was that it's a puppet and it was a donkey that was doing it. And in the first few programs, everyone said the nakli donkey here, this is not real, this is not that, this. But then the donkey became the voice of the people. And every week we got gifts, we got presents, we got wedding invitations, we got anaj, grain that came to the studio in the name of this donkey. It became very popular. During the time in Ahmedabad, in 1972, with Darpana, the group, I took part with them at one of the largest puppet festivals, which happens every 2 years now, in Charleville-Mézières in France. The UNIMA, Union International de la Marionnette, the World Puppet Bodies organization, is in that city, and the 72 Festival and Congress was in that city, and participating with Darpana totally opened up my vision to puppetry. I saw all sorts of puppetry, from children to adults, and met many famous puppeteers, and that has then taken another lead, I would say. Slowly this went on, and we created more stuff. Ahmedabad, and then I had a scholarship to go to Stockholm at the Marionette Theatre Institute's Puppet Theatre Institute. I was a guest student there, studied, worked with them. War Theatre was the social systems, young people and youth theatre in the evenings at Medborgarplatz and Gunter Wetzel, Michael Meshke. Came back to India, I think it was 78. And the first jobs in Bombay was at the SNDT Polytechnic. It was still being built in Juhu, drawing classes, and at the G.D. Somani School at Cuff Parade, where we did creative drama and puppetry. Incidentally, famous theatre director Neelam Mansingh from now in Chandigarh and me, it was our first job which we got in G.D. Somani in that year, and it was Dadi Pudumjee who introduced us to Kumkum Somani, and that's how things went. 79, once again, an invitation to go to East Germany, Berlin, GDR, to the Puppet Theatre, and there to direct a shadow play, design and direct called The Double Shadow, which was on a performance, which was on a story by Vijay Dandetha. The film Duvida that Manikol made, and then recently even a Bollywood film was made on that same story. This happened, and then I had a contract to be with the Children and Young People's Theatre as a pedagogue in Stockholm. The night one was leaving, a call from Panna Bharatram, the Shri Ram Center for Art and Culture in New Delhi, saying that would you like to come and set up a puppet theatre, a modern puppet theatre repertory. I said, sure, I'd like to, but I've signed this contract 1 year. They waited. I got back in 1980, and that's what brought me to Delhi. and we opened at the Shri Center for Art and Culture, India's first modern puppet repertory company with 5 or 6 people, traditional puppeteers, artists, Puran, Jagdish Bhatt, Vinod Dua, Sushma Pandit, Pranjala Gill, Patik Ji, many others. And it was a full day work, and every Saturday evening and Sunday morning we had performances. This was, I would say, the beginning of a seed of contemporary puppet theatre, maybe in India. There were puppet theatres in Calcutta and Ahmedabad who did, but a concentrated house which had a puppet company running. And each of these performances were a milestone, using different techniques. And what came through Stockholm was, and Michael Meschke, was of using puppetry not as a ends in itself, but as a means. So you combined it with actors, with masks, with puppets, with dance, music, and this is what started. Presented children, adults you had, and it became, I have generations now coming with their kids saying that we saw these performances at that point, and that's interesting. Ahmedabad also was one special step, because you come from this sheltered Parsi family and it's mostly Western culture, European, and in Ahmedabad I was introduced to traditional arts, India, I would say through films, through music, through dance, things like that, which I may not have seen if I was sitting at home in Pune. And this has then followed me combined with the things I received at the design school, which now make up my work. Today I would say my work is dated. I would say it's 60s, 70s, but there is a sense of color or a form or of drawing and then producing the work, and this comes from an ABCD of that school. Many people think today it's not necessary, I can do this, I can go straight to the computer. Of course you can, but it's the thought and it's what's behind the subtext that makes a performance. Why puppetry? Well, this is what a hobby became a profession, and I can say things through puppetry which the actors get very upset, the live theatre may not be able to. It's subjective, objective sort of thing. Puppetry is a mirror to life. It is real, but it is portraying it in a squared, in a certain way, and you can't maybe point your finger to puppets. Well, maybe today you can, and you can say through to puppetry things that you may not be able to say through the live actor. The actor is flesh and blood and the audience is flesh and blood, and so there is what we call in art puppetry subjectivity. A puppet is objective, it doesn't have an ego, it doesn't grow old, it stays there and it speaks directly to you. There is no grey area. I mean, as an actor you would see the actor first, you would see how good his role is, how he performs, and then you would see maybe the role. While in the puppet it says directly. 86 I left the Shri Center and started what was called the Ishara Puppet Theatre. And in 2001 it was registered as a trust, Ishara Puppet Theatre Trust. It runs the annual Ishara International Puppet Theatre Festival, and without really any help, corporate help, running on tickets, school shows, some assistance by the Academy, Sangeet Natak Academy, ICCR, but we've had more than 100 countries performing in this festival. This next year, hopefully next year, in February, will be the 19th season of this festival, and I hope you all can come and see it. Techniques, modern, traditional, but good performances, and put on a platform where children and adults can come and see these shows. This is what is important. I do not like to differentiate that this is traditional, this is modern, this is contemporary. A performance, a good performance is a good performance. And artists, whether they're traditional or whether they're modern, are the same. They come maybe from a generational background, or like me, create their own work. And the modern puppeteers, mostly urban based, are from backgrounds of theatre, art, film, and that's how they see their work. Their issues revolve around their situation. They're not bound down by a certain repertoire or a certain look. In 2004-05, there was a UNESCO project, EU UNESCO, on HIV awareness and drug abuse. And the project came to Ishara to work with a marginalized group. And as I had been working with Salam Balak Trust, street kids program in Delhi, often training some of their students, the first group of 18-year-olds were coming out, and these today, I'm proud to say, are modern puppeteers in Delhi. They're traveling all over the world. I can mention their names: Pawan, Shamim, Shamshul, Anil, Vijay, Kumari, Ganesh, Abhishek, and some of them have started their own puppet theatres, some of them work with Ishara, some are doing freelance work, but they all have made a name for themselves and working through puppetry. Where one comes back about this whole thing about society, about empathy, you encourage people and they will go ahead. And this has happened. This has happened, truly happened, and I'm happy for that. These young people today have their own lives. They're struggling. All art is struggling, and they are living on puppetry, some of them. Today they're on webinars because of the situation, but this carries on. I'm just trying to make some points. What especially came into the art form, this was in 1989, I think, 1989, was a collaboration with modern dancer Astad Debu. And there were two pieces. One was called Friends, it was a solo piece dancer and large puppet, and the other was called Thanatomorphia, Many Faces of Death. And this led to another stream in Ishara where a lot of movement, dance, music has been used. We did performances on Violetta Parra's Thanks to Life, music composed by Savandatta, and it was called Journeys. There was another piece called Transposition, where Thomas Mann's and the Vikram Vetal story of the transposed heads, and Rashna M. Hasli Gandhi, she was our base for that, Jungian psychologist. It was a performance more for adults. The other one that broke ground was the performance called Images of Truth, or Satya Ki Pratirup. It still goes all over the world. It's on the ideology of Mahatma Gandhi. IGNC, Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts, and Dr. Kapila Vatsayan at that point, this must have been 93. She commissioned this piece. Every year there would be a puppet group who would be commissioned a piece on Mahatma Gandhi, and we were the first modern group. And the idea was a challenge to make the medium and the message meet. Not to say everything is black and white and this is right, wrong, but how we could present history, flashback, forward, with puppets, with masks, with objects. And this show really ran, and it still runs. It's with world music. It doesn't have a text, and at some point the puppet writes messages or sayings of Gandhi, and they go into the audience. We've been all over the world with this: Kennedy Center, Greece, Southeast Asia, Singapore, of all places, even in Iran, and it has worked pretty well, and it still goes through. Recently, a very interesting piece which was commissioned by NCPA Mumbai, National Center for Performing Arts, and this was a piece, Neeta Premchand's stories on the three great stories of the flood. And When Land Becomes Water was a performance piece, actors, puppets, shadow puppets, and music by the Symphony Orchestra of India, composed by Ayrat Ishmarutov, and Yevgeny Bushko was the conductor. It had its shows last year in March. It traveled to one of the biggest puppet theatres in Moscow last September, and we hope to bring it back to the stage in Delhi. We performed in February at our festival, and hopefully in Mumbai again. What else? I mean, these are the things. I think puppet theatre has to, whether it's traditional or modern, it has a certain sense for the audience. As German puppeteer Albrecht Roser said, that the puppet is like a vessel. For those 15 minutes, the puppeteer as well as the audience put their emotion in it, and then it becomes alive. It cannot be one way. It cannot be just shaking a puppet or moving, as we see inanimate, animate, and giving it life. But there has to be some connection. And without the audience and without the puppeteer, the puppet is a lifeless object which you put life into. And you can make a puppet in 10-15 minutes, it'll break, but it'll still communicate, and you can make something that will last you a lifetime. So yeah, this is what it's all about. There are, I would say, what is a great help that has been in Ishara and in Delhi have been my co-trustees, Sanjoy Roy, Sunil Dogra, who have always been helping, pushing, writing, signing checks. And we hope that Ishara Puppet Theatre can live, can go forward. And they say, think positive during this time. And all my puppeteers are listening. They're sitting in their own little houses, cubicles, locked up. Hopefully tomorrow we hear some more news. So thank you again. Have a great time. Stay well, stay safe, and if you go out, be careful. Thank you and bye.